Mike, how are you feeling for this game? The first ever top flight clash between Ipswich Town and Brentford. Haven't played, obviously, since 2019. Obviously, you said your home form is very good. Town, of course, haven't won a game yet this season. But how do you reckon this game will go? And Kieran McKenna versus Thomas Frank?
I think definitely after the United game, I think Thomas Frank, and he rarely does this when he comes out in his post-match, he's normally really positive, and it kind of gripes fans a little bit when you go to a place like that and you play like the way that we did in the second half, and he'll come out and say, we played really well, and it's like, well, what game are you watching? But I can understand why he's doing it, obviously, to keep the players' positivity. But he came out in the second half against United and he said we were really not good enough. The players didn't hit the levels that they needed to win the game. So I feel like going into this one, they're going to want a big reaction. And I think our home form this season, the only disappointing one was the West Ham game. But even once we'd conceded the equaliser against West Ham, we were on the front foot again. It was almost like we scored a bit too early. So I think that's become a common theme with Brentford, scoring in the first minute of games or second minute of games. But going into it, knowing Ipswich's form this season, I do think it could be quite difficult. I don't know. It's one where I don't want to get too confident, but I wasn't confident ahead of the Wolves game because I watched Wolves' game back before we played them, and in the teams that they played, and they've had a really difficult start to the season as well in terms of the opposition, the level of opposition they've played. I was wondering whether they'd be able to kind of stifle us a little bit because they played really well in those games against teams sort of at the upper end of the table. And we just blew them away. They scored 3 goals. We need to sort our defence out a little bit. But the 3 goals that they scored were the only chances of note, really. One of them was a really well taken finish. But even in that game, it wasn't 5-3 scoreline. We could have had 8. So it was, I'm confident ahead of it. I don't want to get too confident. But, I think going from our home games and going from Ipswich's form this season, I think it should be a routine win. Touch wood. Obviously not for you guys. You'd be hoping for the opposite. But yeah, no, I'm quite confident ahead of it.
Okay. Do you reckon there'll be loads of goals? As you mentioned, that 5-3 game was your last game at home before the international break. What's your prediction? Do you reckon Town could get goals? Obviously, they need to find goals somewhere.
Well, if my memory serves me correctly, we were yet to keep a clean sheet in the Premier League, and that we've conceded 3 goals against Wolves, who are bottom. So I think there's definitely potential for Ipswich to score. It's just whether you can outscore us, because we putting the ball in the back of the net has not been a problem this season, especially at home. It's just kind of defending. So yeah, I think there's definitely potential for there to be goals. Whether, I don't know, what's the mood amongst Ipswich fans after the kind of 2-0 home loss against Everton? I was looking at that one thinking maybe this is the first game or one of the first games that you can really look at picking up points. But it seems like Sean Dyche did a bit of a Sean Dyche job on Ipswich that day.
Yeah, he did. We just weren't at it, unfortunately. And home games, obviously, is going to be so important. I'm sure when you first came up to the Premier League, Brentford, and I think home form is the key. And obviously, that Everton game was sort of earmarked as a potential win, but maybe getting too confident there. This game is probably like, take a point, won't get off the bus, take a point. But we know it's going to be a tough one. Brentford are such an established side. Obviously, this is our first ever visit to your stadium as well. So, I think Town fans are probably not too confident going into this one, but, anything can happen. But Town players have to be on it. But obviously, we've got some injuries to some of our key players. And as you said, you like to score goals. 2 of our main defenders are out injured. So we're like, oh no. But yeah, you got your prediction scoreline on it. What do you reckon?
I'm going to go for a 3-1 Brentford win, I think.